Okay, so where's the red light coming from? I love doing time exposures in product photography, and you always have to get inventive and creative. Let me turn some lights on. So, everything in photography is a trick. Every photograph is a lie, and every photograph is the truth. I get the right angle, I can't see the LED light, to a time exposure of like 13 seconds. I'll illuminate the face with green or blue LEDs. Like this. I actually have a red LED dropping through the barrel, as you can kind of see there. And, how do you make red light and smoke pour out the barrel of a firearm? Well, there are a lot of things you can do in Photoshop, but it'll take you 30 minutes to do that, even if you're good with Photoshop. How to do things simply. Back in the old days where we had to actually put it on the film, do something really simple. Well, simple tricks. Some Japanese incense, time exposure, bulb setting, about 13-second exposure, drop the smoke over, passing the red light that's being emitted. That's captured on the film. The smoke isn't captured anywhere else other than the red light that's being emitted from the barrel. So all you're doing is illuminating that beam of LED illumination. So it looks like we have smoke and fire being emitted from this handgun. Got black matte background. Actually, my matte background fell down. It was up here. I bumped it during my last shot of this German Heckler & Koch 9mm pistol. Start thinking in terms of this. Your camera is a time machine. All the stuff where... This is actually some really expensive Japanese incense. I've had this stuff for like 20 years now. And the only time I ever really grab for it is when I'm using it to do stuff like this. You could use a cigarette, but I don't smoke at all. So there we go. Some expensive incense. But start thinking in terms of that. What can you do? Your camera's a time machine. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. So start thinking in terms of time dilation, doing bulb exposures. Right now I'm using a D750 with a wired remote release, so I can actually dial in the number of seconds on my time exposure. And start painting, start layering light. Actually, I use more than one layer on this. I use 3. I use white light LED illumination to give a specular definition to some of the shiny spots. And then I went back with a blue LED, as I've shown you before. It's my favorite thing doing time exposure, product illumination. It's just a little LED that you can get them off of eBay. And you can actually sit there and actually paint what you want. Now, this is in the field of view of the lens, but actually if I swipe it at a decent angle and keep the straw away from the product, the only thing you'll see is the product illumination. You'll never see the straw at all. So it's all about time dilation, knowing what your camera does capture. Everybody should do stuff like this. These little light mods are simple and cheap, and what you could do with macro photography and product photography is nearly endless. And when you sit there and you turn all the lights off in the house, and the only illumination you've got is a little LED like this, and you're illuminating a product or doing something like that. So of course you can't see the LED with the frame of the view of the camera. Over here you can actually see it poking out. And let me turn that LED off. Layering your light is really easy like this. First great step in making your photographies a lot better is adding flash illumination. Obviously most things are not time exposure, of course, so doing stuff like this, painting with light is not a typical situation, but it is a lot of fun to do. But adding light, and then secondly, whether that's light like this or what 99% of everybody else adds, speed light illumination or strobe illumination, start layering the light and think, well, I've got my main definition here. I've got the red smoke and red light pouring out of this barrel for effect. Now I want to add some specular definition to this edge of the product. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a medical product. It could be a deadly weapon like this, for example. The barrel's out of it, by the way. That's the only way I was actually able to drop the light in, is take the barrel out, but no one would notice that from this particular camera angle. So just start thinking out of the box and adding light layers. It's just like a story. If you got one character in a story and he's sitting there talking to himself, it's like one layer of illumination when you're doing photography. You know, it could be very nice, but you start adding more characters and then interactions, and that's what happens in photography when you start doing like wedding shoots and portrait shots. It's like, well, you've got a light for your background, you've got a light for your subject, and then you might have a little gold hue on whatever side and start adding definition and character to what it is you're shooting. And after a while, after you get your brain engaged in that sort of thinking, you can actually picture what is in your head, and then once you've mastered your camera, then you can easily translate what's in your head to the shot captured on your SD card or your compact flash card. It's not that difficult. It seems really daunting, but it's not. I mean, this is really simple. I mean, this, for example, is like a 5-minute setup. 5 minutes! I mean, how hard was that? Anyway, just start thinking. It's about thinking. It's about translating what's between your ears to your camera. Okay, it's not about your camera. You know, some people might actually have bad specifications between your ears, like a bad specification on an old camera. So some people not be able to do that. But you can practice and train your brain to start thinking that way. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you later. Just